Hi everyone, I'm just waiting until 12 o'clock just to see if there's anyone else that's going to be joining us. Okay, well, hello everybody, and welcome to the What's New with Vivi webinar. So it's our first one that we're doing for the UK, so I'm really excited to be doing this and sharing exactly what's new with you. So I'm Neelam and I'm the Customer Success Manager here at Vivi. Really good to see some familiar faces actually that are attending the webinar today. And for those of you that I haven't met, a warm welcome to you. Just a few rules of engagement. So all attendees will be muted and you can pop any questions in the web chat. I have a really good team sitting behind me that are going to be monitoring the chat and Joe's one of them. So welcome Joe and thank you so much for helping. Joe will kind of introduce himself a bit later when I pass it on to him where he's going to kind of help us with what's coming. So you can put any comments in the chat and they will be answered. I will pause at intervals just to sort of just find out exactly what questions there are. The webinar is going to be recorded. Okay, so that does mean that you will receive a recording and just give us 24 hours for it to process, but you will receive that via email. Okay, so what's new? What's on our agenda today? So we are going to cover Stream to Students. Okay, so some of you may have used this already. Some of you might not know exactly what that is. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a quick sort of demo exactly what Stream to Students does. We are also going to be covering device alerts. Okay, so that's just making sure that you are prepared for Martin's Law and how the IP subnetting can also fit into that. Okay, so if there is an emergency, what does that mean if you have mobility across your different campuses? Okay, so I'll cover that. With our what's coming, we're going to be talking about the enhanced whiteboard. So I know that there are a couple of you that are on this webinar today that would be really interested to know about the enhanced whiteboard and the Vivi Interactive. We will talk about the location-based management, which is just another step onto the IP subnetting. Okay, so it's kind of a whole when we talk about the location-based management. And we would be talking about live captions where you can have text appear and you can have different languages as well. So I think there's about up to 75 languages. And that's where Joe's going to step in and help me kind of discuss that in a bit more depth. We will also talk about the promo that we have available, which is our 14-day free trial for the device alerts. Okay. So moving on to Stream to Students. So what is Stream to Students? So it's actually putting a lesson content directly onto a student's device. Now, this can be done for many reasons. Okay, so it could be that you have a child that's in the back of the classroom that has to sit at the front because they cannot see the front panel properly. Okay, so it means that they're not saying that they're totally visually impaired, but they really struggle to see that board. So why does that child have to move to the front of the classroom? If they've got a device, the teacher can actually stream what they've got on their front panel directly through to the student, okay, onto their device. And it mirrors, it's real time, okay, so it doesn't mean that there's going to be a delay. It's exactly what's going on your screen. You can then stream that back to the student. Now, I'm going to show you how that's done. So I'm going to open my Vivi app. Okay, so as teachers and lecturers, you will have the Vivi app on your device. And here we've got a tab where it says Stream to All Students. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to firstly pick up what I want to be streaming to my students. Okay, so I'm going to put these questions and put it on my panel. I was going to say front panel, but it's actually sitting behind me. So the panel, and I'm going to show how that then will show on the Stream to Student. Okay, so open my Vivi app, and then I'm just going to open it on my device. And this is where the first hurdle fails, where I struggle to get it on my device. There we go. Okay, right. So I'm going to just click onto where it says share screen. Click onto the stream to students, share screen. Okay, now you'll see on the panel that exactly what I've got on my device is now showing on the panel. As a student, I've now got my device and I'm going to click onto where it says classroom stream, and I can now see exactly, I don't know if you can see that, I can now see exactly what is showing on that front screen. So I don't have to be looking up. I can just concentrate exactly what I've got in front of me on my device. Okay, so that's the stream to students. It does mean I can carry on and do exactly what I had access to before. So it means that I could request control. So I could do some annotation as a student. I could do some annotation on my screen, and I might want to then share that back to the front panel. Okay, but what that does mean is, as a student, I've got that little bit more control. It means I don't have to go to the front of the screen. I can just sit where I am at my desk and I can clearly see exactly what's going on. Okay, so I'm just going to click onto the stop button now because I'm going to stop sharing. So just to go through that again, that was stream to all students, and I can click on and then I can share screen. Now, the other option is if I go to my Vivi Central and I know that I always need to share to this particular student, I don't have to then go on to stream to all students all the time, because actually in my Vivi Central, I can go to where the users are and I can click onto that particular student. So George is my pupil that has an issue with looking at that front screen. So I'm going to click onto where it says George. And then if I go to edit, sorry, I feel like I'm all fingers and thumbs at the moment. And I scroll down to where it says classroom stream viewer, and I can tick that box. And then if I then save those changes, so right down at the bottom, I can save those changes. And that means that whenever now I want to stream to students, I don't have to click on here because I might not want to stream to all of them. It might just be George, but when I share window, he will automatically be updated. Okay, so I'm not sharing anything at the moment, so we know that it says that we are waiting to stream. As soon as I share my window, George will then get that on his device. Okay. Joe, any questions in the chat?
So far, so good, Neelam. You're good.
Okay, fantastic. So just going back to our slides, okay, so we've covered the stream to students. Now what we are going to cover is the device alerts, okay? The reason why I've left this a bit later to talk about after the stream to students is because the key thing and the key discussion in pretty much every education institute is about Martin's Law, okay? And that's what Vivi can help with, okay? We don't cover everything, but what we can do is try and fill in some of those gaps to make sure that you are prepared for Martin's Law. Now, I've kind of done a bit of research just to kind of find out exactly what's going on with Martin's Law. How much do education staff know about Martin's Law? And just through the research that I've done, it's actually coming up that it's still not fully, like education staff are not fully aware of what Martin's Law is. Okay, so I've just got a little bit of here where Vivi can help with Martin's Law. We have got a webinar that's coming up. So right down at the bottom, you can see that the next webinar is Martin's Law, Are You Prepared? And that's on Tuesday, 9th of June. So you can sign up to that webinar and then obviously you will learn a lot more from there. So how can Vivi help with Martin's Law? We can provide site-wide communication. So that means that we can actually reach your staff through common areas, classroom displays, even on their devices. Okay, so I could be a teacher that's PPA time. So I'm sitting in a little cupboard away from everybody so I don't get disturbed by the other children, and I'm doing my work. There's an emergency. I don't have a panel, so I can't see that there's an emergency. It could be that the bells rang, but I haven't yet clocked on. Is it 2 rings? Is it 3 rings? Does that mean it's a lockdown? Does it mean there's a fire alarm? I'm just carrying away in my little cupboard doing my work. But actually what I can get is an alert that appears directly onto my device, which I have to acknowledge. So actually anyone in admin can see whether I have acknowledged that particular alert. It's clear customizable alert, sorry. Okay, so you don't have to use the default alerts triggers that we have. You can create your own. Okay, so you might have it in coding. So you might have code red, code green. Only your staff know what that means. So you can actually have that as a customizable alert as well. So depending what you use in school, you can replicate that exactly the same. Removing the single point of failure. So alerts can be triggered from anywhere, okay, on the school site. So that's via Vivi Central, or you can do it through your app. So actually, are we going to lock down the whole school, or is it just a particular department? So it could be that we have the English teacher in the English department that just needs to lock that area, but we don't want to alert the rest of the school because that's just going to cause chaos. So actually, the teacher can do it directly from their Vivi app. But don't panic. You as Vivi admins would give access to those teachers that you would want to activate those alerts. Okay, so it doesn't mean that everyone's going to have access. It could be that you go, well, actually, we're just going to let SLT have access to triggering those alerts. And then it's fully audited and acknowledgement based, which I will show you. So actually, like I said before, there is an acknowledgement button. However, did I acknowledge it or did I just bypass it? Did it not get delivered? So these sort of things you can track, okay, so to make sure that you know that everyone is going to be safe that's in that building at that time. Okay, so device alerts. Now, some of you may have seen device alerts, and I bet whoever's looking at this slide now has looked right down at the bottom straight away and bypassed everything that's at the top because you have seen that there is a 14-day free trial available. Now, with that, I am going to show you how you can sign up to that free trial. But what I am going to do first is I'm just going to give you a quick demonstration of what that device alert looks like. So I'm going to now move on to my Vivi Central. Okay, and I'm going to click on home. So I'm going to show you 2 ways of quickly doing this. So I've gone into my Vivi Central and I am going to trigger an alert. Okay, so I know that in my school, an emergency has happened. So what do I need to do? Do I need to lock down? Do I need to just get everyone out of the building? Or are they just staying in the classrooms? So I'm going to trigger an emergency. So the emergency type I'm going to do as a lockdown. I'm going to choose the location, and I'll talk a little bit more about locations when I move on to the next part of the IP subnetting. So here I've got all locations. So do I want it everywhere or do I want it in a particular area? Well, actually, because this is through admin, we are locking everything down. The delivery method is displays and clients. So that means that it's not just going to the displays, it's also going to the devices as well, so the teacher devices. When you set up your emergency and device alerts, you don't have to have both. So it could be that you have one particular poster for displays and you may have another just for clients, or you might decide that you want to use it for both to have that consistency. So remember how I said if you're using specific codes like code red, code green, on your device, on your display, you may have lockdown in process, but on your client device, you might have that as a code red or a code green. Okay, so you can have them separately. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to click create. So I'm going to lose you for a second, but you won't lose me. So I'm going to click create. And as I do that, my screen has now been taken over and all I can see is the lockdown poster. So remember, I'm the teacher that's doing her PPA time. I'm in a cupboard. All of a sudden, the school's in lockdown. I'm going to now click acknowledge. Okay, so I've acknowledged that. My screen has come back to what it should be. But as you can see on my display, I can now see that there's a lockdown in process. Okay. Now, just looking here at the information, so I've got that the emergency lockdown is in progress. I can see that it was triggered just now, and I've got two little icons here. So that just means it's going to displays and clients. Now, what I might want to do is click on and now see who has acknowledged. So I've just clicked on, I'm going to go to broadcast summary, and I can see exactly which teacher has acknowledged. Now, the different ones that you would get is unavailable. So it means they're not logged into the client app at all. You might have delivered. So if it's delivered, it means it's there, it's on the teacher's device. They just haven't acknowledged it yet. So those are the ones that you may want to then find out exactly what's going on and why they haven't acknowledged it. Now, the other positive that I have is I am a teacher, a PE teacher. I'm on the school field. The school's in lockdown. How am I made aware that there's a lockdown that's happening at the moment? Because I'm on the school field. I can't hear the bell and I don't have a display or a device. But what I do have is my mobile, and I've just got a text message to tell me that the school's in lockdown. Okay, as soon as I cancel that emergency, you will see that my screen goes back to its original playlist. I've got a text message to say that the lockdown has now cancelled, so that emergency has now ended. The other way of activating is if I go into my Vivi, you can see I've got all of my rooms set up here. So I'm in room 1, but if I need to activate this emergency across the whole school or a particular location, all I do on the Vivi app is I click onto the triangle with the exclamation mark. We're going to choose the lockdown poster. I'm going to confirm, and I can select a location here. So that would be across the whole school, or I can just choose one particular block. Okay, and I'm going to do the maths block instead. So I'm going to create that emergency. Again, I have to acknowledge. And the good thing here is because it's just in the maths blocks, I can actually put a message as well. So I could put lockdown, do not leave the area. There we go. And I'm going to send that note. And then what will appear at the bottom of my screen is the update where it says lockdown, do not leave the area. Okay, and I can go and update that as many times as I want to. Okay, I'm just going to end that emergency. So I'm going to go back to my screen, and I'm just going to take you through. So here, what's included in a device alert. So you can have unlimited staff devices per site. You've got emergency API access for third-party integration. So what that means is that if you trigger your alarm system, it will, through an API, it will trigger your displays as well. You have a full audit trail, which I showed you, where we can see in the broadcast summary. And to top it all off, you've always got the support of us Vivi staff. Okay, now for your 14-day trial, I'm just going to move across to our website. So on our website, you can just type in to Vivi. Okay, so vivi.io, which will take you to the website. And then here you can click to start your free trial. Okay, I know that there are a couple of you that have actually joined this webinar that have already started your free trial. Okay, so you can do that here too. I did have on my on one of my slides a little QR code. So if you missed that, don't worry, you still will have access to it. Okay, I'll make sure that I send it out to you for those of you that are on the webinar. Joe, I'm going to take a pause here. Are there any questions?
Yeah, sure. So a few things just to that came up in the chat. So with the 14-day trial, 100% software based, no hardware needed. You'll just be able to just get from the software standpoint. Another one, when it comes to that SMS, that's going to be especially for those safety wardens. And what's really nice for those safety wardens, those designated folks, they from their phone can also cancel the emergency. So it would just go specifically to the safety wardens, not necessarily all of the teachers, but you'll be able to designate who gets those text messages, and then they would also be able to then, cancel or reset it. There's even places, obvious by my accent, I'm from North America. There's even some places over here where they include people from outside of the school, like local law enforcement or the first responders, as a person that maybe would be a designated safety warden. So just a quick one on that. And the last one there for the customization. One thing that you can customize with the emergency alert is you can even customize down to the room level. So, for example, if it's a fire emergency, room 205, go out the door and exit to the right, but across the hallway, room 206, go out the door and exit to the left because of just where they're positioned. So you can even get that granular with how you do the emergency alerts. But other than that, I think we've got all the questions answered. Thanks, Neil.
That's okay. Thank you so much, Joe. And also just to let you know that if you are looking at the device alerts and just to go back to the question of customizing, I'm always happy to offer training. So if you did need any training on how to add the media, how to then create your emergency alert, just let me know. I will have my email address at the end of the slides. So please do take note. And if you want to discuss more or you want to book in some training, please do contact me. Okay. Right, so now I'm going to move on to the second part, which really kind of goes in line with the device alerts, and that's the IP subnetting. Okay, so what does IP subnetting mean? Well, what it does is it's range mapping. So what it identifies your physical location. So if, for example, you have, or you're part of a trust or an academy where you have that mobility across the trust. So it could be that you have one teacher that's going to be in one school one day, tomorrow they're in another school, they might be there for 3-4 days, but then the week after they may have to go to the third or fourth school. Okay, so we're talking about that type of mobility. Now, what you don't want is if I'm a mobile teacher and I'm in school East Midlands today and tomorrow I'm in school West Midlands, and because I'm connected to East Midlands, because that's kind of where my base is, and tomorrow I'm at West Midlands, there's an emergency within East Midlands, I don't want to be notified at West Midlands, okay, because I don't want to trigger an emergency thinking, oh my gosh, we're in a lockdown and it's a completely different school. So that's what the IP subnetting helps. So it targets the location, okay, so it ensures that you've got the right communication. The administrators maintain central control. So if you just focus kind of on this picture here, which I hope kind of just kind of gives you that idea of exactly how that works. We have our Campus 1, Campus 2 and Campus 3. Now we know that there's an emergency at Campus 2 and there's an emergency at Campus 3. I am based at Campus 1, however, today I am at Campus 3. So actually I would be notified because that would identify that I am currently at Campus 3. So if there was a lockdown or there was a fire alarm or any type of emergency, I will be able to see that. The central office warden can see exactly what's going on. So centrally, your admin team is always kept in the loop, regardless of what campus you've got or site you have got that emergency. They will know exactly what's going on. Now, location-based management, which Joe's going to kind of go into a bit more depth with the what's coming, that reduces that noise of confusion. So actually, it means it's only going to be delivered to those specific people within that space, and it's going to only deliver those relevant notifications. Okay, and we'll kind of talk about that in a bit more depth. Now I'm going to go into my Vivi Central. So we're back into Vivi Central because that's the key of everything, and I'm going to go to organisation and then locations. So by clicking onto locations and I go into manage locations, here is where I can set up my subnet. Okay, so that's where I can then start to create those IP addresses. So if I'm not at a specific school all the time, it means that it will identify that I'm one of those teachers that has mobility. Okay. And again, if you need any further training or any additional information, please do reach out to me. Joe, any questions regarding the IP subnetting?
No questions, but I will. This is where, from my product standpoint, the one additional piece there is if you do have a person, as an example, with that trust who maybe needs to always be notified of anything, no matter where, you could leave them out of those ranges entirely, and then they'll get the notification and wherever they are that says that at West Midlands there's an emergency. So that way they're, again, aware and in line with what's happening. But we really did build that feature around the fact that some schools were notifying. There's a lot of fluidity with where people might be in a building, or even within a campus. And if you have those IP subnets, this will dynamically move them as they join those separate networks. So, yep.
Great. Thank you, Joe. Okay, so coming soon. This is the bit where I'm now going to tell you who Joe actually is. So for those of you that haven't met Joe before, which I know some of you may have at the Bet Show, because we had the privilege of Joe coming to the Bet Show and joining us and spending a couple of days with us all the way from America, which I'm still quite sore about because he came over to us, but we're not allowed to go over there. I need to pick that up, Joe, with you. But Joe is our director of product. So Joe, it's brilliant to be able to have you on our webinar today. And Joe's going to kind of go through a bit more with what's coming soon. So if you have got any questions, please do pop them in the chat, and you've got Joe. So please do use his time. It's still very early for Joe. He was up at 4 o'clock this morning. So Joe, thank you so much for joining our webinar.
Yeah, so no, absolutely. Sorry, did you want me to jump in? You want to go ahead, Dig?
Right, I'm just going to kind of go through the coming soon, and then I'm going to get you to jump in and kind of just discuss a bit more of each of these new areas. So what's coming soon? Vivi Interactive. Okay, so with Vivi Interactive, what that means is we all know you've got your front panels in school. What happens when a front panel starts to get a bit old and it starts to lose its touch, or, you know, it just doesn't have that same mechanics of what it had when you first bought it, okay? It's a lot of money to go through and start changing those front panels. So what we've done is we're going to be activating the Vivi Interactive. That's going to support that. Now, we know at some point there is going to be a time where you will need to change your front panel, but how can we help you with that interactive side, so you're not having to then, I was going to say throw your money away, but you're having to then you know, pay out for these big purchases that are just not within that budget. So Joe, can I pass this on to you to discuss the Vivi Interactive in a bit more depth?
Yeah, absolutely. So a little bit of background on me: former classroom teacher and instructional technology director. And then for years, I worked at Promethean prior to joining Vivi. So interactivity and touch in the front of the classroom is definitely something that I care passionately about. So with Vivi Interactive, what we're actually going to do is enable the splash screen to immediately be a jump off point for instruction when there is an interactive surface. So whether it's an IFP, whether it's an interactive projector, even if it's just a touchscreen TV, you'll be able to have the Vivi paired with that display. And then when you walk up to the Vivi splash screen, hit a Vivi Interactive button to then immediately jump right into our updated whiteboard, which teaser, we'll get to that one in a second. And then secondly, the other key feature is another thing that a lot of people have wanted to do is when they're screen sharing to the front of the classroom, they want to be able to annotate over top of that screen share with a lot lower latency. And so with Vivi Interactive, we're putting those applications directly into the Vivi box. So when that display and that interaction happens, you have a very low latency experience because you're actually using the application right there in the box, not just using touchback over the network. So that just creates a more fluid experience. So this Vivi Interactive in this first go is really just about getting that whiteboard up, and then also that ability to get the live draw capability over top of a screen share. And that's going to be our first entry into it. And I'm sure there'll be more apps that we'll bring to that front. But for right now, that's what's coming. And a big one, this is included with your subscription. So when this releases later next month, it'll be in the preview branch. You'll have it available to try out right away.
Fantastic. Thank you, Joe. Really appreciate that. I'm just going to introduce you to another one of my colleagues, Maddie. Maddie, are there any questions in the chat?
No questions that have come up so far in the chat.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. Joe, I thought I'd ask Maddie because you've obviously done quite a lot of talking so far. Okay, so now we're moving on to the enhanced whiteboard. So this is where Joe's going to kind of expand a bit more further on that. So the enhanced whiteboard. So I'm just going to go on to my Vivi my Vivi app. You all have access currently to the whiteboard. Okay, so here we go. So I'm just going to, I don't know, do a little squiggle there. Okay, works fantastic, especially when you have a touchscreen device and you're streaming to the front panel. Okay, so you can be anywhere in your room and you can be, you know, drawing, you could be writing, and it goes onto the screen at the front. But what you haven't got is your back to those children, okay, because you're able to use your touch screen and obviously or your computer, and it goes onto the front panel. So with the enhanced whiteboard, so that is a better version of this. Okay, so it'll have more features. It's nicer to look at, it's easier to look at, and we've really tried to make sure that it's user friendly. Okay, now Joe, I'm going to pass on to you just to kind of expand a little bit more of the whiteboard.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, kind of building on the Vivi Interactive side, if you were to share to a touch display, or if you're sharing up to the display, then what you'll actually see is the UI dynamically changes so that when you're at the touch display, we make the buttons a little bit bigger, a little easier to click, a little bit more fluid to work with. But when you're using it at your computer, it'll be smaller, so you get a little bit more screen estate because we know you'll be right there in front of it. Secondly, we actually re-architectured the entire back end of the whiteboard experience. So it is a 100% web view, either at the front of display or on the client, looking at basically the same web instance. So that way, you're actually going to be seeing really low latency between drawing at the front of the classroom or drawing on your device, because it's the same screen, just happens to be rendered in two different places. Versus previously, our whiteboard has been casted up to the display, and so you always had a little bit of network latency that was slowing down the visual aspect. Now you'll be rendering it real time across both. The network implications are very, very low because it's a low latency connection to the network, and we're not really rendering like live streaming video. We're just rendering a web page that's going to show it across. Some of this architecture is what's going to build us forwards into then having even collaborative whiteboards where you could have multiple people in one. But in this first go, it's really going to be just replicating what our current whiteboard does with a much lower latency experience by having it up front in the Vivi whiteboard itself, in the Vivi box itself, so you can more quickly get to that whiteboard. You can even launch the whiteboard without even having fully joined in the room, so you can just have it for that open access space if a teacher, if an IT admin sets up a room that way.
Fantastic. Thank you, Joe. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the location-based management. So remember how we went through the IP subnetting? So this is an expansion of that. So that was just one element of location-based management. So location-based management obviously gets rid of that noise where you may have various rooms, locations set up. And you don't want to really have access to all of that, okay? So you want this to be quick. You want to be able to go onto your Vivi app and you want to be able to choose that location that you're in, or for it to identify where you are. So over to you, Joe, just to talk a bit more about the location-based management. Oh, I did forget to ask if there's any questions, but what we'll do is we'll do the questions after location-based management.
Yep. No worries. I've got the Q&A up. So far, no other questions have come in. But all right, so to build on location-based management, like Neelam said, this is sort of structured off of the device alert side, but this one specifically is also just going to be included. It's going to be part of the Vivi subscription, where if you do have a larger organization, we'll now set it where if you go to join the room, you'll only see the rooms within your network, within your location. Secondly, if you're that safety warden, if you're that signage person, you'll only ever be able to push schedules or emergencies to the location that you're assigned. So that way you don't get a lot of things in your rooms list. Like if you go into your Vivi app and you see your room list, it might have every single room within the organization. Now, with location-based management, you'll only see the ones in West Midlands, to use Neelam's example here. You'll only ever see the rooms within that specific area. Secondly, again, for that signage or that emergency person, they won't accidentally be able to trigger something organization-wide. They'll only ever be able to limit it and segment it to their specific building. Some of this, again, is really structured around these larger and larger enterprise level colleges, trusts, and schools that do have multi-campus with a lot of distance between them, and they still need to have that segmentation. So this feature will be part of that. It'll be available, I think, actually later this week itself. If not next week, but it'll be within Vivi Central. You'll see the update there because it's a full back end thing. Whereas Vivi Interactive and an enhanced whiteboard will be coming in a preview branch in 3.11.3, probably mid-April is when you'll see those two updates. But again, all three of those features completely included with your Vivi subscription. So these are just added benefits that you'll continue to get.
And can I just say that you have heard all of those timeframes directly from the director's mouth. Okay, so if he said they're coming, they are coming. Joe, just very quickly, I know you said mid-April. Do you mean mid-May for Interactive?
I'm sorry. Yes.
That's
yes.
okay.
I live in all the time zones, so I forget what month and day it is. So yes, you're right. We are currently in April. It will be mid-May. Apologies.
That's okay. No worries. Thank you so much. Any questions in the chat?
Nothing so far.
No? Okay, brilliant. So that leaves our last bit of what's coming soon, and that is live captions. So I'm actually able to show you this. So I'm just going to open my Vivi app. Now, you won't be able to see this yet because you're not, I'm on kind of a beta version where you can see here, one of the apps available is live captions. Okay, so you won't have access to it yet, but it is coming soon. So what is live caption? So I'm going to click on just to give you an idea so you can see now exactly what's on the screen. So we've got live captions. Oh, and as I'm talking, it's going to now listen and it's going to put those captions in. But we've got live captions, which can go directly to the classroom display. So as you can see on my board, exactly what I'm saying is coming up on the screen. But not only can I just have it on my classroom display, I can actually have it on my student display. So remember that student where we were streaming to that student and that student's got their device. Well, I can actually have the captions whilst I'm talking. The child doesn't have to be looking at the board. They will see exactly what I'm talking about on their device. Okay, and you can change the font size. You can pause it. So if I'm going to now tell a child off because he's not paying attention, I can pause, I can tell that child off, and I can resume, and we start our live captions again. Now, there is also a translation option. So if, for example, we know that at certain parts of the UK, that we may have a need to be able to translate some of these captions. So I am a child that English is not my first language. Okay, and I am struggling. Now, obviously, we want to push to be able for that child to read English, but that child may have just started in your class. And like I'm saying, they're an EAL child and they are struggling to understand English. So what you can do for that specific child is use the translation option, and you can click onto what you want it translating to. So I'm going to have, obviously, one close to my heart. I'm going to use Punjabi. And as I am talking, I'm hoping that this is now going to change. Yep, it is. Okay. And don't expect me to speak it because I can't translate it that way. But what it is doing is actually changing into Punjabi language. Okay. Joe, very quickly, I know that this can be exported.
That's correct.
I don't know how to export it though.
So there's actually the big export button right there.
Oh,
underneath
yes, sorry, it was being covered. Yep.
You're okay. Yeah, I know you have the Zoom windows up, so it's probably hiding the things. But yeah, so that export will actually give the option for the teacher to pull the transcription from that session. And it is only during that session. That's the only time that these captions are sort of captured. So that export can then be pulled and then used, on a Google Classroom or a learner management system. So that way, a student that maybe isn't in class can still get notes from the class. I used to be a science teacher. I've been very impressed at how well this captures very complicated terms as well. So that way, again, so we make sure that students get all of that information captured that way. So yeah, there you go.
Fantastic, thank you. Right, I'm just going to stop all. Okay, any questions?
Yeah, the quick one there with live captions, that question that came in, live captions is a separate, it's an additional subscription. So this will be tied on top of Vivi, so just because of just the nature of how that system works. But this one, you do need the Vivi box to, as Neelam showed, show on the screen, and then also have this live caption capability. So just quick note on that one. But that's
great. Thank you, Joe. Okay, so we're coming to the end of our webinar, and I can't believe I've got that in time for the 45 minutes. So what are we doing in terms of promos? So the one that we have got at the moment is obviously the device alert. So it's a 14-day trial. If you would like to know more, or if you wanted to book some training in, if you wanted to have a quick 20-minute demo, please do send an email to me. So my email is at the bottom of the page here. So it's Neelam with a B at the end at vivi.io. Okay, and any questions you may have, please do contact me. And remember that if you did want to sign up for the 14-day device alerts, I'm just going to go back onto our website, and it's just the click button here that's in the banner at the top. Now, obviously, we've gone through a few different things of what's coming and what's new. So I'm just going to go back because I think this is a really important message. You have got a Vivi subscription, okay? And Vivi combines classroom engagement, campus communications, and school safety into a single subscription, okay? So I think that's a really key takeaway from this webinar today, to just so you know that actually Vivi does do a lot more than potentially what you might be using it for, okay? And like I said before, if you've got any questions, if you like any additional information, please do send an email across to me. Okay. And I'd like to thank you all for joining. Joe, anything from you?
No, I appreciate the time. Glad to connect with everybody. Just checking. I don't see any additional questions in the chat, so I think you are good.
That's great. That's perfect. Right. Thank you all so much.